Hey folks, well I'm back on the chainsaw project here. I confirmed it running like I showed in the previous video, so all's good. So I went to the dealership and bought a few more parts. Now I was kind of suspicious of this oil pump because this was so hard to turn. Didn't think it should be as hard as it was. And I also see threads in the bottom are stripped out. So, between that and I had to get a couple other pieces that I realized were missing when I was looking at the parts diagram. They had 3 of the 4 pieces in stock. They were a little expensive. The oil pump wasn't cheap. It was 40 bucks Canadian. So there's the oil pump. This is the high flow one. And if I show you, where's the old one? Probably can't tell. If I try to spin this, and it's really sticky, hard to move. I tried cleaning it, didn't work. This one, very easy. So I got to put that in, and as well, here is a little cage bearing. That wasn't cheap either. I think it was like 25 bucks, and that's what goes inside of the, where is it? Clutch bell. Sorry about the noise in the background, it's the electric heater. I didn't start a fire tonight. That sits right in there. Finally, the other piece I got is this, it's called just a cover wash or whatever, and it goes, the worm goes on and then this goes on. And that kind of protects the worm from getting damaged. The only other thing I needed to get, which I couldn't get, was the trigger interlocks. So that's on order. That'll be a cheap part. I don't really need that to run it. It's just a safety feature. So let's. I got to pull this handle off in order to get at the bottom side of the oil pump, and then the dealer told me that you just need a 6mm bolt. Goes in these threads in the bottom, and you kind of push it up and in. It's a friction fit, and you got to make sure, if you can see with the lighting, there's a little slot there that's got to line up in the right spot. And he also said that the teeth on this should come up and just partially, sorry, I don't know if you can see, partially engage the worm. Not all the way up like that, just part way up like so. So he said there's a diagram on the bottom, which I did see, but we'll pull the handle and everything off and take a look. Well, I changed my mind and decided to get a fire going just to save some electricity. And also, I also decided, you see here, this is the oil filter. Pulled the old oil line out. I figure I've got the new one. Might as well put it in instead of having it sitting around being wasted. That way I can also clean this oil filter. It's easy enough to do. And as well, see if you can see, what I was talking about was the markings. You can see here it shows oil filter. You can see how there's a notch and a hole on the back side. Well, the notch goes there, and there's also a little tiny notch, if you can see it in there as well. That means the oil filter presses in and lines up that notch, so it pulls oil from here, pumps it through to this other side, and I can see the hole in there as well. So I think should be easy enough to push in there. First things first is I'm going to clean this little guy off, back flush it a bit with some WD-40, and then put her back together and see if we can press that oil filter in. So I'll have to go find a bolt first to use to help push that oil filter in. Alright, I got the oil feed line in. Got a 6mm bolt to push the oil pump in, not oil filter. I was saying that wrong last time. It was actually quite surprising that the guy at the Stihl dealership was willing to tell me how to do this instead of wanting me to bring this in for him to do it. So that was quite nice of him. Great customer service. So I'm just going to grab my little plastic hammer. Alright, Couldn't find my plastic hammer. It's probably in the house. There's my trusty old ball peen hammer that I've had since a little kid. Grandfather actually bought it for me. And tighten this up. I'm going to put the worm in place. Actually, no, I'm not. Put this in. Turn this upside down. And line that slot up. And see, that looks right. Line that slot up and just attempt to tap it home. Now, it's going in easy for the first bit, but I know it's a friction fit. I might have to, you can see it twisting. There you can see it. You can see it there coming through. But this needs to go flush. And oh, even though I emptied the fuel tank, I can still smell raw fuel. Now, I just want to find an Allen key. Sorry, I'm in the way. Give that a little spin because that slot's not perfectly centered. I mean perfect. It's not perfectly lined up, so I'm just going to use an Allen key. Luckily, it's in the direction that this tightens in. And in theory, there we go. That looks good. Now I'll take this out. Like so. There you can see the little gear sticking out. Now, if I got that in the right distance, the worm should just partially engage the threads. There you can see. Can you see it, folks? See how this spins and it turns that gear. Now, if everything's lined up right, oh, it's dripping fuel even though I emptied the tank. If everything lines up right, I should have oil pumpage, hopefully. I can see that this tube isn't in there quite right. So, that's this guy right here. It's got an O-ring on it. And then this just should, oh, dummy. If you put it the right way, it'll work. This is where the bolt goes. This is where the, I think where the oil pump, feeds. So I think I gotta push the oil pump up higher. That's what it's looking like. This should seat. It's supposed to just go up against that somehow, I thought. You'll have to bear with me. I may have to go look on the parts diagram because that just doesn't seem right. I think it just sits flush against there. Yeah. So, just bear with me and we'll get this mounted up and then we'll be back. So, I got this washer here. Protects the worm from getting all munged up. Next is to thread this on. Reverse threads. Like so. Don't even have to worry about tightening it too much because it's going to tighten itself when it runs. But I can use the pull start to kind of help hold it, tighten it. be amazed to see if it works. I'm sure the oil is supposed to come through. I think the oil comes out right here. So fingers crossed. It won't be long, and we'll find out. Bearing next. Clutch bell. Oh, here's what. This is interesting. Did I put that on the wrong way? It's not see. Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm an idiot. This little notch here. I don't know if you can see that. Little notch is what actually rides on that wire on the worm. So I'll stuff the bearing in. Or not. Alright. Do it this way. Put the bearing on. Clutch. Spin it till it engages. Washer. Everything seems, besides that oil pump being a little tight, it seems to be okay. But maybe that's why this one is seized up, is because there's too much pressure and it bent the shaft or something. We'll see. I'm not sure how I could fix it. I loosened these bolts off on the bottom. I tried to shift everything around, but it didn't move for me. So, say I bought this thing not necessarily expecting to fix it as a chainsaw, so we'll see. Voila! Like so. And now it's a matter of throwing the handle back on, throwing the plug in, throw some oil and gas in it and see if she pumps oil. So let me get her bolted back together and we'll see if it's a success or a failure. Alright, I've got some fuel in it and some oil in it. Now I'd be truly amazed if this works. If she pumps oil, it just doesn't feel right to me. But hopefully she'll at least start. So I'm going to fire it up and let it run, and we'll see if she's got oil coming out. It might take a while for it to prime through, but I'll make sure and mute it, and if you watch, you should see it come out here and start seeping. So, moment of truth. First we'll see if she'll start. Nothing. Nothing at all. I'm assuming it's this hole right here. It just looks like where it should be. Of course, it's going to be super hot now. Clutch. Oh, that clutch isn't even. It's not right. It's just stuck too. So I don't know. Something's. Looks like it's a little bit. To say that. That whole motor is in there a little bit cockeyed, it seems. So sorry, I'm talking. You can see how there's lots of gap here and nothing here. It's almost like that whole engine is tilted in the case. So back to the drawing board. I'm gonna have to take a look a little further and see why things aren't lining up. So. Going to be lots more work on this to come. Until then, take care and talk to you later. Well, folks, I said I was done, but I'm not. So I'm going to show you something here. Let me fire it up. Come on. Is she popping? We got oil! Friggin' right. I figured I was wrong. I actually didn't have the oil pump pushed up high enough. And I also figured something else out. Because this was too tight. I think the problem the previous owner was having was the crankshaft. There's a little face in there. And it's not quite right. It doesn't allow the clutch to, it gets too tight. I had no play in here. So the clutch was all jammed up. So what I ended up doing was leaving this washer out. Now I'm not 100% sure if I should leave that out or not. It protects the worm. So what I might do is pull the clutch off and chuck it up in my lathe. And not the bell, but the clutch in behind. And just take a little bit off just to gain some clearance, because there's almost enough, but there needs to be a bit of slack in there to allow this clutch some movement so that it doesn't bind up. But she's oiling, she's running. I'm super happy. If I can't put that washer in, whoop-de-doo. I'll just have to pull this out every once in a while and clean out from behind there. But in any case, there you go. She needs a bar and a chain, and I've got myself a nice Stihl 025 chainsaw. So awesome. Maybe I'll take some footage of me cutting some wood once I get the bar and chain. So until then, take care and talk to you later.